The Silent Challenger. The Vexari Empire's conquest of the Orion Arm had been swift and merciless. For 3 centuries, they had moved through the galaxy like a plague of locusts, consuming everything in their path. 57 star systems had fallen before them, their inhabitants either subjugated or exterminated. The Vexari, with their crystalline exoskeletons and cold, calculating minds, had never faced meaningful resistance. Supreme Commander Azerix stood on the command bridge of the Eternal Dominance, his flagship that had led the vanguard of the Vexari expansion for the past 30 years. His crystalline features caught the blue light of the tactical displays, fracturing it into 1,000 tiny reflections across the bridge. "Report," he commanded, his voice a harsh, grating sound that made the junior officers flinch. Sub-Commander Velix approached, her posture perfectly rigid. "The outlying system has been scanned. Supreme Commander, we've detected primitive settlements on the 3rd planet and several orbital structures. The species calls themselves humans. Their technology appears to be at developmental stage 3, barely capable of interplanetary travel." Azerix's crystalline mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among his kind. Developmental stage 3. They won't even have coherent shield technology. Prepare the harvester ships. We'll strip their system bare and process the survivors for labor pools. There is one anomaly, Supreme Commander, Velix added, her voice dropping slightly. "A single vessel at the edge of the system. It doesn't match any known profile in our databases." Azerix dismissed this with a wave of his crystalline hand. "Likely a trade vessel from one of our subject races. Targeted first. No witnesses." The Eternal Dominance moved forward, leading a fleet of 30 warships. The Vexari approach was methodical and precise, the result of centuries of unchallenged military dominance. Their sensors swept ahead, cataloging resources, mapping defenses, calculating the exact force needed to subjugate this new world. But as they crossed the system's outer boundary, something changed. The unidentified vessel moved. Not the panicked scramble of prey sensing a predator, but with deliberate purpose. It adjusted its position, engines flaring to life with an energy signature that caused the Vexari sensors to momentarily scramble. "Supreme Commander," one of the sensor officers called, confusion evident in his voice. "The vessel is accelerating toward us." Azerix felt the first twinge of something unusual, uncertainty. "Show me." The main view screen shifted, displaying the approaching ship. It was unlike anything in the Vexari database. The vessel was sleek yet imposing, its hull a dark gray that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. No visible weapons ports mirrored its surface, but something about its design suggested lethal purpose. "Magnify," Azerix ordered. The image zoomed in on the ship's hull. There, etched in simple white lettering, was a word, DEFI, ANS, E. Beneath it, a strange symbol, a blue circle with white patterns that the Vexari translator identified as Earth surrounded by olive branches. "They're broadcasting a message," the communications officer announced. "Let's hear what primitives have to say before they die," Azerix said, gesturing with a clawed hand. A calm, measured human voice filled the bridge. "Vexari vessel, this is Captain Helena Chen of the United Earth Defense Force ship Defiance. You have entered restricted space. Withdraw immediately or face consequences." Silence held the bridge for 3 heartbeats before Azerix erupted in laughter, a sound like shattering glass. "They're threatening us? Us, the Vexari who have conquered 57 systems." The bridge crew joined in the laughter, but it died quickly when Azerix raised his hand. "Send no response. Deploy attack pattern Sigma 9. I want that ship destroyed, but preserve enough wreckage for our technicians to examine." The Vexari fleet spread out in a practiced formation. 10 of the smaller cruisers accelerated ahead, forming the first wave of attack. The Eternal Dominance and the remaining vessels held position, their weapons charged and ready. "They're making no attempt to flee," Velix observed, a hint of confusion in her voice. Why would they? Azerix replied. They don't know what they face. The first wave of Vexari ships launched their attack. A coordinated barrage of plasma torpedoes and disruptor beams designed to overwhelm any defensive system. The space between the two forces lit up with deadly energy, the attack racing toward the solitary human vessel. What happened next would change the course of Vexari history forever. The human ship didn't raise shields. It didn't attempt evasive maneuvers. Instead, the Defiance seemed to flicker. The space around it distorted ever so slightly, and the majority of the Vexari attack simply passed through the space where the vessel should have been. What was that? Azerix demanded, his crystalline fingers digging into the armrests of his command chair. Before anyone could answer, the human ship responded. A single pulse of energy, so condensed that it appeared as a thin blue line, shot from the Defiance. It struck the lead Vexari cruiser, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the cruiser simply unraveled. Its molecular structure appeared to dissolve, the ship breaking apart not in an explosion, but in a cascade of disintegrating matter. Impossible, Velix whispered, her voice barely audible. The human ship fired again, and again. Each shot was precise, targeted, and devastatingly effective. 3 more Vexari ships dissolved into clouds of component atoms. All ships, full attack. Azerix roared, rising from his chair. Concentrate all fire on that vessel. The remaining Vexari fleet unleashed everything they had. The void between the ships became a storm of energy and destructive force. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever withstood such an assault. The Defiance moved through it like a knife through water. Wherever the human ship went, Vexari weapons seemed to miss or glance off an invisible barrier. When the Defiance returned fire, its weapons struck with surgical precision, each shot disabling or destroying a Vexari vessel. Our shield technology isn't stopping their weapons, the tactical officer reported, his voice strained. It's as if they're firing through a different dimensional plane. Azerix watched in growing horror as his fleet, the pride of the Vexari Empire, was systematically dismantled by a single ship from a species that shouldn't even have mastered interplanetary travel. Order all remaining ships to regroup, he commanded, his voice cold with fury. Prepare the Nova Cannon. The Nova Cannon was the Vexari's ultimate weapon, a device that compressed and then released the energy equivalent of a small star. Its use was authorized only in the most extreme circumstances, as the resulting destruction could render an entire system uninhabitable. Supreme Commander, Velix cautioned, using the Nova Cannon this close to our own fleet. Would you prefer to explain our defeat to the eternal hierarchy? Azerix snapped. Prepare the weapon. The eternal dominance began the charging sequence, drawing energy from its core. The remaining Vexari ships moved into a protective formation around their flagship, sacrificing themselves to buy time. The human ship paused, as if assessing this new development. Then it accelerated, not away from the threat, but directly toward the Vexari flagship. They're on a collision course, the sensor officer reported, his voice rising in pitch. Impossible, Azerix responded. No commander would. The Defiance suddenly vanished from their sensors. Where did they go? Azerix demanded, his crystalline form trembling with rage. And something else. Fear, an emotion no Vexari commander had felt in centuries. Unknown, Supreme Commander. They disappeared from all sensor readings. A new voice filled the bridge. The same calm, measured human voice from before. This is Captain Chen. Your Nova Cannon has been disabled, along with your primary weapon systems. We could destroy your remaining fleet, but that isn't our way. Return to your territory. This solar system and its neighbors are under human protection. The view screen changed, showing the human captain for the first time. She was a small being by Vexari standards, with dark hair pulled back tightly and eyes that reflected the stars themselves. Despite her species' physical fragility, there was something in her gaze that made even Azerix feel exposed. I don't understand, Azerix said, addressing the human directly. Your species shouldn't have this technology. Our intelligence indicated. Your intelligence was wrong, Captain Chen replied simply. We've been watching the Vexari for decades. We've seen what you do to other species. Earth has prepared accordingly. You're lying, Azerix hissed. No species could develop such technology in secret. Captain Chen's expression didn't change. You judge other species by Vexari standards. That's your first mistake. We'll give you 6 hours to collect your damaged vessels and withdraw. After that, we cannot guarantee your safety. The transmission ended. Azerix stared at the empty screen, his mind racing. In 3 centuries of expansion, the Vexari had never retreated. To do so now would be to admit weakness, to invite challenges from other species, perhaps even rebellion from those already under Vexari control. But the alternative was annihilation. Whatever technology the humans possessed, it had rendered the Vexari's greatest weapons useless. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled, and the Nova Cannon, their ultimate weapon, had been neutralized without the humans firing a single shot. Orders, Supreme Commander. Valex asked quietly, her crystalline features reflecting the confusion felt throughout the bridge. Azerix's pride warred with his survival instinct. In the end, survival won. Send word to all remaining vessels, he said, his voice hollow. We withdraw. Contact the Eternal Hierarchy. Tell them we have encountered a species unlike any other. As the Vexari fleet limped away from the system, Azerix couldn't help but look back at the small blue planet that had produced such a formidable defender. For the first time in his long life, he wondered what it would be like to face an enemy that couldn't be conquered, and what that meant for the future of the Vexari Empire. The humans had changed everything. And Azerix knew with terrible certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. Revelations and consequences. The Hall of Eternal Wisdom on the Vexari homeworld of Crystallis had never known such chaos. The 9 members of the Eternal Hierarchy, the oldest and most powerful of the Vexari species, sat in their crystalline thrones, their multifaceted eyes fixed on Supreme Commander Azerix as he completed his report. Impossible, Grand Hierarch Zexus finally said, breaking the stunned silence. His voice resonated through the chamber like the toll of an ancient bell. No developmental stage 3 species could possess such technology. Azerix stood rigidly at attention, his pride shattered but his resolve intact. I have provided all sensor data, Grand Hierarch. The human vessel Defiance neutralized half my fleet and disabled our Nova Cannon without sustaining visible damage. Could their technological advancement be the result of outside influence? Asked Hierarch Lysaria, her crystalline form catching the light in patterns that indicated deep concern. Perhaps another spacefaring race has provided them with weapons. We've considered that possibility, Azerix replied. However, preliminary analysis of their technology suggests it operates on principles fundamentally different from anything in our database. A murmur ran through the chamber, a sound like wind through crystal caves. The implications were disturbing. The Vexari Empire had built its dominance on technological superiority. The idea that a supposedly primitive species could develop advanced technology along an entirely different path threatened the very foundation of Vexari supremacy. We must know more about these humans, declared Hierarch Nexter, the oldest among them. Deploy stealth observers, gather intelligence. If they possess advanced technology in one domain, they may have vulnerabilities in others. Grand Hierarch Zexus nodded his agreement. Authorization granted. Deploy the Void Shadows. 3 solar cycles later, the Void Shadows, specialized Vexari intelligence vessels designed to be undetectable by conventional sensors, had positioned themselves throughout the human solar system. They observed, they recorded, and they transmitted their findings back to Crystallis. What they discovered shook the Vexari to their core. Azerix stood in the intelligence center beneath the Hall of Eternal Wisdom, surrounded by holographic displays showing images of Earth and its inhabitants. Sub-Commander Velix operated the controls, moving through the gathered intelligence with practiced efficiency. Humans are physiologically unremarkable, she explained, displaying anatomical scans. Carbon-based, oxygen-dependent, with relatively short lifespans of less than a century. Their physical strength is negligible compared to ours, and they lack natural defenses. Yet they defeated our fleet, as Eric said softly. Continue. Their true strength appears to be cognitive, Velix continued, changing the display to show human brain activity. Their neural patterns are unlike anything we've documented, where most species, including our own, develop specialized cognitive frameworks. Humans demonstrate remarkable neuroplasticity and interconnected thought processes. She brought up a timeline of human development. Most concerning is their rate of technological advancement. While it took the Vexari approximately 10,000 cycles to progress from basic tools to space travel, humans accomplished the same in less than 10,000 of their years, with the most dramatic advancements occurring in just the last 300 years. Such acceleration defies evolutionary patterns, as Eric noted, studying the timeline with growing concern. There's more, Velix said, her voice dropping slightly. We've intercepted and decoded their communications. They know about us, not just our recent incursion, but detailed information about the Vexari Empire, our conquest patterns, our technology, even our biology. Azerix's crystalline features hardened. How is that possible? We've never engaged with them before. They have been secretly observing our encounters with other species, Velix explained. For decades, they've been sending undetectable probes to witness our conquests. They'd been studying us while we were unaware of their existence. The realization hit Azerix like a physical blow. They've been preparing for us. Yes, Velix confirmed. And there's something else you should see. She changed the display to show a massive structure in orbit around Earth's moon, a shipyard unlike anything Azerix had ever seen. Within it, 3 vessels identical to the Defiance were under construction, alongside dozens of smaller craft. Our initial assessment of them, as a developmental stage, 3 species, was a deliberate deception on their part, Velix explained. They allowed us to see only what they wanted us to see, primitive satellites, basic space stations. In reality, they've hidden their true capabilities behind sophisticated cloaking technology. Before Azerix could respond, an alert sounded. One of the void shadows had detected movement at the edge of the human solar system. Multiple vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel, the technician reported. Configuration matches the human warship Defiance, but these are larger. The holographic display shifted to show 5 human warships moving in perfect formation. Each bore the same sleek design as the Defiance, but with subtle variations that suggested different specializations. Leading them was a vessel nearly twice the size of the others, its hull bearing the name Prometheus. They're heading directly for the Void Shadow's position, the technician said, alarm evident in his voice. But that's impossible. Our cloaking technology should make it undetectable. Recall the intelligence vessels immediately, Azerix ordered, but it was already too late. On the display, the lead human ship, the Prometheus, fired a single pulse of energy. The Void Shadow didn't even have time to transmit a distress signal before it disintegrated. They knew our ships were there, Velix whispered. They let us watch them, knowing we were watching. Before anyone could respond, a communication request flashed across the main display. The humans were contacting them, directly to the secured Vexari Intelligence Center. How did they get this frequency? Hierarch Nexter demanded, his crystalline form vibrating with anger. It's impossible. With a nod from Grand Hierarch Thexus, Azerix accepted the transmission. The screen filled with the image of a human male, older than Captain Chen had appeared, with dark skin and gray hair cropped close to his skull. His uniform was similar to hers, but with additional insignia that suggested higher rank. I am Admiral Marcus Washington of the United Earth Defense Force, he began, his deep voice measured and calm. Your intelligence vessels have been destroyed as a warning. We know you've been watching us. We've allowed it to give you time to reconsider your position. Grand Hierarch Zexus stepped forward. You address the eternal hierarchy of the Vexari Empire, human. Your act of aggression was a response to your own. Admiral Washington interrupted, something no being had dared do to a Grand Hierarch in living memory. The Vexari Empire has destroyed 57 civilizations. We've documented each one. We've recorded your atrocities, and we've prepared accordingly. He leaned closer to the screen, his dark eyes seeming to look directly into each Vexari present. But unlike you, we don't seek conquest. We offer a choice. A data packet accompanied the transmission, coordinates for a neutral location in deep space, date, and time for a meeting. Send representatives with authority to negotiate, the Admiral continued. Or don't. But know this, humanity will not be conquered. We will not be subjugated, and we will not stand by while you destroy other species. The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving the chamber in silence. This is unprecedented, Hierarch Lysaria finally said. No species has ever dictated terms to the Vexari. They destroy our void shadows as if our cloaking technology didn't exist, Hierarch Nextor added. If they can do that, they could potentially detect and target any Vexari vessel, anywhere in the Empire. Azerix finished the thought. Grand Hierarch Zexus rose from his throne, his ancient crystalline form catching the light in patterns that hadn't been seen in generations, the pattern of uncertainty. Supreme Commander Azerix, you will lead a delegation to this meeting, he declared. Take our 3 newest warships as escort. Learn everything you can about these humans, their capabilities, their weaknesses, their true intentions. And if they truly seek peace, Azerix asked. The Grand Hierarch's multifaceted eyes shifted in color, from cold blue to a deep purple, an expression of grave concern. Then we must consider it, he said, the words clearly difficult for him. The eternal hierarchy has ruled for 10,000 cycles by making correct decisions for our species' survival. If these humans possess technology that renders our military might obsolete, then a new approach may be necessary. 2 weeks later, Supreme Commander Azerix stood on the bridge of the Crystal Dominion, the newest and most powerful vessel in the Vexari fleet. Beside him, Sub-Commander Velix managed the tactical display, monitoring the approach of 5 human vessels, the same ones that had destroyed the Void Shadows. They're maintaining formation, she reported. No weapons signatures detected, but after what we've seen, their weapons might not register on our sensors at all. Azerix finished. Maintain alert status, but take no aggressive action. A communication request came through. This time, it was Captain Chen of the Defiance. Supreme Commander Azerix. She greeted him with a slight nod. Admiral Washington is transferring to your vessel for the discussions, if acceptable, as a show of good faith. Azerix couldn't hide his surprise. He would place himself in our custody. Captain Chen's lips curved in what humans called a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. The Admiral is confident in our ability to retrieve him, should that become necessary. Do you accept? Pride and curiosity warred within Azerix. In the end, curiosity won. We accept. Transmitting docking protocols now. An hour later, Azerix found himself seated across from Admiral Washington in the Crystal Dominion's conference chamber. The human seemed unimpressed by the crystalline splendor of Vexari architecture. His attention focused entirely on the matter at hand. Let me be direct, Supreme Commander, Washington began. Humanity has no interest in war with the Vexari, but we will not allow your empire to continue its path of conquest and genocide. You speak as if you have the power to stop us, Azerix replied, testing the human's resolve. Washington didn't flinch. We both know that we do. Your ships in this system, impressive as they are, would not survive an engagement with my fleet, and we have more where these came from. Yet you speak of peace. I speak of change, the Admiral corrected. Humanity has studied your empire for decades. We know your history. Your species began as curious explorers, seeking knowledge and connection. Somewhere along the way, you became conquerors instead. Azerix felt something uncomfortable stir within him, a recognition of truth he had long suppressed. Our dominance ensures our survival. For how long? Washington challenged. You've created an empire built on fear and subjugation. How many of your subject species would rise against you, given the chance? How sustainable is your method of conquest when you encounter a species like ours? He placed a small device on the table between them. It projected a holographic map of the galaxy, with the Vexeri Empire highlighted in blue and a small section in green. This is human space, Washington explained, indicating the green area, small compared to your empire. We have no desire to expand it through conquest, but we will defend it, and we will defend other species from extinction at your hands. You propose to limit our expansion. Azerix asked, crystalline features hardening. The eternal hierarchy would never agree. They will when they understand the alternative, Washington replied calmly. We've prepared a demonstration. At his gesture, the holographic display changed to show a distant Vexeri outpost, one of their most heavily fortified military installations on the edge of the empire. As they watched, a small object appeared near the outpost, barely visible on the sensors. Then, the entire installation simply disappeared. No explosion, no destruction. It simply ceased to exist, leaving nothing but empty space where a fortress housing 10,000 Vexeri had stood. What you just witnessed was not an attack, Washington explained, his voice grave. It was a controlled dimensional shift. The outpost and all personnel have been relocated to a pocket dimension. They are unharmed and can be returned. Azerix struggled to process what he was seeing. This technology is beyond anything the Vexeri currently possess, Washington finished. We could use it offensively, shifting your worlds, your fleets, your entire empire out of normal space-time. We choose not to. Why? Azerix asked, genuinely curious. If you possess such power, why not simply conquer us as we would conquer you? Washington's expression softened slightly. Because that's the difference between our species, Commander. Humans learned early in our development that true strength lies not in domination, but in cooperation. Not in fear, but in mutual respect. He leaned forward. The Vexeri were once a great species of explorers and scholars. You can be again. We're offering you a chance to remember who you were before you became conquerors. The conference lasted for hours, delving into details of a proposed treaty that would fundamentally change the nature of the Vexeri Empire. When it finally concluded, Azerix escorted Admiral Washington back to the docking bay where his shuttle waited. Your eternal hierarchy will resist these terms, Washington said as they walked. Change is difficult, especially for those who have known only one way for so long. They will resist, Azerix agreed. But they will also calculate the odds of success in a conflict with humanity. The Vexari are nothing if not logical. Washington nodded. There's something else you should understand about humans, Commander. Something that may help your leadership make the right decision. He stopped walking, turning to face Azerix directly. Throughout our history, humans have accomplished our greatest achievements when faced with the greatest adversity. We advanced from primitive tools to space travel in the blink of an evolutionary eye because we had to. Because our planet is harsh, our bodies are fragile, and our lives are short. His eyes held Azerix's gaze steadily. We don't want war with the Vexeri, but if forced into one, we will bring to bear every ounce of human ingenuity, determination, and creativity. And those qualities have taken us from caves to the stars in a heartbeat of cosmic time. As Azerix watched the human shuttle depart, he reflected on those words. The Vexeri had conquered through superior strength, technology, and numbers. But the humans had revealed a different kind of power, the power of adaptation, of creative thinking, of finding solutions where others saw only obstacles. For the first time in his long life, Azerix wondered if perhaps the Vexeri had something to learn from another species. if perhaps conquest wasn't the only path to greatness. As his ship prepared to return to Chrysalis, he found himself looking forward to a future that, for the first time in Vexari history, couldn't be predicted or controlled. A future where humans and Vexari might someday stand together as equals, exploring the stars not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in discovery. The galaxy would never be the same again. And perhaps, as Eric's thought, that was for the best.